And our Bengals report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies, great local company providing IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services with mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing models to improve efficiency and productivity. Visit encore.tech. The path to innovation becomes here. Well, the path to following the Cincinnati Bengals for a number of years now, you've heard him on the radio here locally, does great work for Sports Illustrated, and a pleasure to be joined on the program here by James Rapien. James, how are you, man? How's everything going? I'm surprised you're not slugging around outside of, what is it called now, Paycor Stadium over at the practice field there?
Yeah, I've spent plenty of time outside of Paycor, and you got it right. I've said it wrong a ton. It's going to take a little getting used to, but no, really excited for the season, and I appreciate you having me.
I brought up something yesterday, and maybe only halfway through our second show, people are tired of hearing me say it, and I've gone on record as saying I don't like it, but it doesn't matter whether I like it or not, and that is this. I don't like the fact that not a single Bengals starter outside of a rookie guard has played a snap in the preseason. Do you think that's a big deal? What are your thoughts on it? You're around this team every single day.
I think they planned on playing some starters. And the moment Joe Burrow had that appendectomy, they said, well, what's the point of playing Joe Mixon or T. Higgins or Jamar Chase or even a Hayden Hurst, these new offensive linemen, if Burrow isn't going to be the one under center. So they weren't going to play these starters a lot, but I think that had a big part of it is they were like, okay, well, if Burrow isn't playing, should we put any of this offense at risk? And so instead of playing the rest of the guys for a series or two, maybe in that week 2 preseason game, I think that would have been the one that they targeted pre-Burrow surgery. They opted to play it safe. Now, could that mean a little rust for some of these guys, especially a guy like La'el Collins, who outside of 2 team practices hasn't done much in 11-on-11s? It might. But overall, if you're telling me that these starters can be 100% healthy going into week 1, I think that is much more important than playing starters for, again, what would have been probably 8 to 10 total snaps in the preseason.
All right, James, walk me through and everybody else through where Joe Burrow is right now. They've said he's going to be set and ready to go for week 1 next Sunday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You see it that way too?
No doubt about it. Joe's looked great. It's kind of wild. I wonder what he looked like pre-appendectomy on July 26th, because he said he was feeling really, really good and throwing the ball as well as he had thrown it, and just physically really in shape and ready to go for the season. In his first practice back, he looked like he should look in mid-August and has looked like that for most of camp since returning. So I think he's looked great, and I think he's recovered from that. But the after effects, he lost some weight, of course. I think he's still trying to get all of that weight back. I think it's close. If you look at some pictures of him a couple of weeks ago compared to now, I think he's certainly putting on that weight. He'll be ready to go. Will he be where he was, say, July 20th? I don't know about that. And I don't know if he's going to feel like that at all this year, just because once the NFL season starts, there's going to be a bunch of bumps and bruises. But overall, I think he's pretty close to as healthy as he can be considering the circumstances.
I want to circle back. You mentioned La'el Collins comes over from the Cowboys as a free agent. The Bengals made huge news, did a great job during the offseason in firming up that offensive line. But because they didn't play in the preseason, outside of Collins and him not playing well in the 2 days there against the Rams when they were leading up to the final preseason games, the rest of those guys look good, ready to go that they brought in?
They do. Yeah, I think Ted Karras has been a huge addition to that room. And I think he's kind of been the one that's kind of set the tone a bit. I know early, I believe it was in OTAs actually, he was asking a bunch of the trench players, offensive line, defensive line, if they wanted to come over and watch, I think it was MMA or boxing, one of the pay-per-views on a Saturday night. So he's certainly building up that rapport with those guys in the trenches. And he's a veteran. And you bring veterans like that in, guys that have won Super Bowls, him and Alex Kappa both winning rings in New England and Tampa Bay with Tom Brady. and they know what it's like. They know what it feels like. And so I think the guy that benefits most outside of Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon.
Yep.
I mean, I think he's going to have running lanes that he hasn't had as a pro. And especially on that right side, you got Alex Kappa, Lel Collins. Those are two nasty dudes in the run game. So both Joes should have a smile on their face this season.
T. Higgins, the sad news that his father passed. What can you tell us about that whole situation? Funeral arrangements unquestionably being made, him leaving the team. Do they have any idea when? I know they're giving him all the time he wants, but do they have any idea when he might be back?
I certainly this coming week, I would anticipate him coming back, and they're practicing Monday. A lot of people will be drinking beer and celebrating the holiday, the end of summer, however you want to do it. The Bengals will be working, and I'll be lingering outside Paycor Stadium and inside, like you said. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if you see T back on Monday, because it is a game week. Worst case, I would say Wednesday, but Monday kind of feels like the natural target date. But like you said, I think they're going to give him as much time as he needs. And speaking of guys that have looked great, I know he's coming off of that shoulder surgery this offseason, but he just looks – I know they already have a Jamar Chase, but T. Higgins certainly looks like a wide receiver one, no doubt.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, Higgins on most other teams in the league is their number one guy. And really, you look at his numbers, since he came into the league, he's played like a number one guy, even with the great numbers that Jamar Chase had last year. You're there every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's Bengals morning, noon, and night around here.
Yeah.
As you look at this team, what concerns you about this team?
The biggest thing is what cost them the Super Bowl. It's that offensive line still, because I don't think there's a ton of depth in that room. You get a guy in Max Sharping off of waivers from the Texans. I thought that was a huge get, because he gives you some Cordell Volson, Jackson Carmen insurance there at left guard. He gives you a proven player that could back up Alex Kappa if you need him to. He's made 33 starts in this league, 48 appearances in 3 seasons. So I like that addition, but still, the offensive line is really what I think could derail the offense. It's certainly not the skill players. It's not Burrow. You're not going to bet against Joe Mixon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this defense is really underrated. I don't see a huge glaring hole. You could say, oh, well, maybe you want another cornerback. Well, every team wants another cornerback, right? And then the other thing is, I do think situationally, Zach Taylor struggled in certain moments, right? The Packers game week 5
no doubt.
Last year stands out. The San Francisco game at the end of that, taking the ball out of Burrow's hands. Super Bowl 56, I won't get into detail because everyone knows. So that's the other part. Does he – and he's gotten better every year, to his credit. Does he take another step as a play caller, as a head coach? If so, there aren't really many – stumbling blocks if the offensive line is as good as they hope it is after their offseason additions.
Jesse Bates, the whole ordeal where he's holding out there for a while, eventually he would sign the 1-year deal. He's making almost, I think it's $13 million. The rookie Hill plays great in the preseason. It's the preseason, but I know that everybody's very high on him. Now that Bates has had a week and a half under his belt, is he the shoe-in starter week 1? After missing all that time?
He is, yes. And that's why I think it was key for him to come back when he did. If he was going to show up on, say, Tuesday or Monday, because Monday's a work day for the Bengals, if he was going to show up then, can you really throw him out there for 60-plus snaps against the Pittsburgh Steelers? It's pretty unrealistic. And considering it would be kind of detrimental to him to do that, because he's hoping to have the best season of his career and get a big fat contract in March. I anticipated him coming and showing up at some point, and I think he did it in just enough time for him to get his football legs under him, so to speak. He showed up in great shape. But yeah, I expect him to start. I also expect to see a lot of Dax Hill, because you're right, he played great. And obviously we know the athleticism and everything like that, is versatility. But the thing that he's impressed the coaches with, and the reason I think he's going to be an instant contributor, is mentally he's been able to digest everything that they're asking him to do, because he's not going to just play one spot like Jesse Bates is, where he's just playing that deep safety role. He's going to move in the nickel cornerback spot and free up Mike Hilton at time. at times. He's going to guard Pat Freiermuth week one and other opposing tight ends and kind of move all around the field. And so the fact that he's been able to digest all of that, take it all in, and he's playing fast, I think they're confident that he could be a big contributor this season, even though they are locked in with their two starting safeties with Jesse Bates and Von Bell.
All right, I want to hit two more topics before I let you go. Number one, Kevin Huber. I have to tell you, I thought this was a year after having Chrisman hanging around last year on the practice squad. I thought this would be the year that Chrisman takes over that position. It didn't happen. Chrisman's sitting on the practice squad. I'd bet the ranch they lose him within the next 2 or 3 weeks. I can't believe he wasn't picked up by Buffalo just the other day with all the drama and the terrible situation, or accusations anyway, going on there with their punter. But were you surprised Huber is back as the main guy this year?
A bit. Yeah, I was to a degree, because you're right. I thought that they brought Chrisman in for a reason last year, and they wanted to have a competition last year. And so when they bring him back, they re-sign Huber after the draft. It just kind of felt like, yeah, you might want to just get younger in that room. And Chrisman played really well. And the thing that I thought might hold him back was holding on Evan McPherson field goal attempts. And Chrisman was a great holder. There was no issues. He improved at that a lot since last year when he was a rookie. So yeah, I thought Chrisman might have the edge. It was hard to handicap, though. It wasn't like the left guard spot where it felt like Volson kind of took that job and ran with it. It was really close, neck and neck. And I think it came down to they trust Kevin Huber to get that ball inside the 20. And Drew Chrisman did not overwhelm them enough to go against the veteran. So a bit of a surprise. At the same time, you're right. The fact that they were able to keep Chrisman on the practice squad, at least for now, is a win. That could change in a hurry, though.
I think it's going to change in a hurry. Okay, the last thing I want to ask you about, because you've not only done a phenomenal job covering the Bengals with Sports Illustrated, doing a lot of radio here in town, but you were up in Cleveland for a little while. And I have no doubt that you're in tune with everything going up there in the Browns, not like you are with the Bengals because you're here every day. But
sure.
Can you put into words, James Rapien, what the feel is at all right now up in Cleveland? We know everything that's gone on with the quarterback, Deshaun Watson. Jacoby Brissett is going to start the year. They ship off Baker Mayfield to Carolina. Strangely enough, it's Mayfield against the Browns in week one. I mean, who would have ever believed that, right? But what's the vibe you're getting, if there is such a thing, out of Cleveland right now?
Well, a lot of fans are certainly torn. You know, you got a lot of the fan base that's all in. They understand the talent that Deshaun Watson is. And we've seen that jersey with all the lists of quarterbacks. And so there are that side of things. There's that. At the same time, I think there are also a lot of fans that are like, really? That's the route you went? You gave him a fully guaranteed contract to get him here? Because he was going to go to Atlanta. I think that's pretty clear. Deshaun Watson told the Browns, hey, you're out. And then they said, we're going to give you a fully guaranteed contract. And his agent said, oh, yeah, they call it a max deal in the NBA, and was bragging about it afterwards and did a great job in getting Deshaun Watson that. So, yeah, I think there are certainly people that feel icky about it, I would say, to put it lightly. And so, yeah, as far as the Browns are concerned, they have some question marks. I mean, it's a talented defense. On offense, they have some great running backs and in a good offensive line, but will Jacoby Brissett be able to hold the fort down long enough? And will Watson be the Deshaun Watson he was in 2020 after a year and a half, nearly 2 years after the suspension away from the game? I think those are legitimate football question marks. At the same time, obviously the off the field stuff has rubbed some people the wrong way. And let's be honest here. If he goes up there and he wins a bunch of games, I think, fans will slowly forgive him and cheer for the Browns again. So I don't necessarily worry about that side of it, but I do think that the Browns, they're talented. And October 31st, when the Bengals go up to Cleveland, even with Jacoby Brissett under center, it should be an interesting battle for sure.
Okay, before I let you get out of here, I know you have a huge following on social media, but I'd like you to tell everybody how they can follow you on social media as well as your show you do on a regular basis. It's all about the Cincinnati Bengals.
For sure, yeah. So Couple things. We do Locked On Bengals every single day. It's the only daily Bengals podcast. You can get it wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube. We do Cincinnati Bengals Talk on YouTube, where there's a bunch of different shows, videos from the stadium, one-on-one interviews with players. Joe Goodberry does the show on Tuesday nights, Elise Jesse on Thursday nights, and then allbengals.com for all the writing element there, which is, it's I try to make that a one-stop shop, but now we have these other things going too. So we try to cover the Bengals from every angle for sure. And then the social media aspect on Twitter at James Rapien.
James, great stuff. I mean, nobody covers the Cincinnati Bengals. If anybody out there wants to know what's going on with the Bengals, I mean, it's not my show. It's not anybody else's show. It's not. I mean, you're the guy when it comes to covering the Cincinnati Bengals. So continued success. Love to have you back on. And enjoy this final weekend before your life turns absolutely insane through hopefully February again.
Yeah, it was a long season last year. I'm ready to go if it's going to be a long one again. I appreciate you having me, Tom. And anytime, just reach out. I'll jump on.
All right, James. Thank you so much. James Rapien from Sports Illustrated. Thanks. And you know where to find him now on social media. Very kind of him to join us here today. That guy's on his game, man. I mean, he is on his game.